So if you've been online lately, you'll likely know that short form video is completely taking over the internet. See, a little over a week ago, when I was creating this video, I realized that the mega creators all across social media are creating their short form videos with one thing in common. They're all using these pop-up attention-grabbing captions. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can create a short form video service that can earn you $100 an hour, but also how to automate the whole process. With the average attention span of a goldfish being higher than a human's, it's a constant battle to create the most attention-grabbing video to keep you watching. Offering a service like adding these captions to a video is in high demand because it does exactly that. It builds and holds attention, and these massive influencers understand it. So today, we're going over exactly how much people are already making by doing this. I'll show you how to add captions to short form video from scratch, and how to save everything as presets so that you can automate the whole process each time you get a job. But before we start editing, we would have to get a video from a client. And while there's thousands of ways to get clients, which I'll talk about more in a second, we're just going to start on Fiverr. Now, I'm sure that you'll be able to create a Fiverr account. And then once that's done, if you scroll to the very bottom of the page, you'll want to click on Become a Seller. You'll have to fill out all of the forms, and then once that's done, you're ready to create your first gig. So let's look at some example gigs that are already making money. So here's our first example gig. You can see that it just offers to edit the short form video with captions. And it's really just these center style pop-up captions. Now, this particular gig has over 400 reviews, 10 orders in queue, and they're charging between $15, $35, and even $100 depending on the service that the client orders. That means that they've already earned between $6,000 and $40,000 just from this gig, just based on the people who have actually left reviews on the service. Now, I'm guessing it's around the middle, probably closer to 16,000, but that's still great income for a simple gig like this. Here's our next example gig, and this seller has 649 reviews, 7 orders in queue, and they're charging between $20, $40, and $50 per service. And it's also important to note that they have exceptional amounts of repeat buyers. And again, they're just offering the same thing. They're just adding emojis and simple captions to the middle of the videos. This gig alone has earned this seller anywhere from $13,000 to $32,000. And that's just based on the people who actually left reviews. From what I can tell, about 70% of your buyers will leave reviews, so it could be 30% higher than this. Now, when I first made this search for just short captions, you can see that there's only 1,300 services available, which to me does not seem like that many. Right now, I'm not filtering by the best selling, and you can see that a lot of these sellers are already getting really good sales. Now, granted, some of them are newer and they only have a few reviews, but when you consider that a lot of these gigs have 200, 130, 139, 400 reviews, you can see that there's definitely a lot of potential profit to be made here. And not only that, but a lot of these thumbnails are completely hideous and they're still getting reviews. So if you can make something a little better than this, I think you can definitely still get some sales. If you can create a simple thumbnail, something like this or like this, you can absolutely kill it in this game. One more thing to keep in mind is that after the gig is posted, you're only working once you get an order. So you're paid for every single minute that you spend working. You don't have to put in a ton of work and then not get paid right away like a lot of other e-commerce. We also have a lot of room to scale our services once we get better and more confident on a website like Upwork, where professionals get paid literally hundreds of thousands of dollars to do these types of services. And by using this method that I'm about to show you, the entire process can be done in a matter of minutes. If you could complete 2 $50 gigs in under an hour, then you just got paid $100 an hour for that work. Now, this does require a little bit of skill, but when you compare it to something like Uber or DoorDash, you not only can get paid a lot more right away, but you could also scale this into something like an SMMA or just content creation agency. Okay, but we'll talk about how to get more gigs in a second. But for now, let's talk about how to actually edit these videos and automate the entire process. Now, for this example, I'm just going to use 2 videos that I downloaded off of YouTube, but you'll obviously want to use the video that your Fiverr client sends you. Now, this is not an editing tutorial, so I'm just going to show you the process of automating these captions to put them on your video. You'll have to price your Fiverr gig accordingly if you decide to accept long form videos that you'll have to edit down into short form content, or if you're just going to offer the service of applying these captions. To do this process, I'm going to be using Premiere Pro, which is my video editing software. It costs about $20 a month. There are free alternatives out there, but if you do plan on scaling your business, I'd just recommend learning the professional tools right away. This is the first step, and you'll have to repeat it every single time you get a new client's video. But once you get the steps down, it should only take you 1 or 2 minutes. So I've opened Premiere Pro right here, and all we're gonna do is come up to the top left and create a new project. We can rename it and change the location if we need to. This is just where it saves the file. And then come down to the bottom right and just click create. Now from here, if your window does not look the same as mine, then just come up to the top right and make sure that under this workspaces tab, that essentials is checked. Now we have to create a vertical video format before we import our file. So to do that, on the left here under the projects section, you should see a little tab here that says new item. If we click that and choose sequence, then we can come to the settings section and just make sure that under video, the frame size is set to 2160 by 3840. Then we can just come down and click OK. It should make this black area appear right here, and this is where we can place our video. Now, I just downloaded some videos off YouTube, so I'm going to use these, but all we'll do is we'll pretend that this is from our Fiverr client, and we'll click and drag it right into Premiere. Now, you can see it's a little small, so if I click on it, then I can use the effects control tab in the top right. And if I choose the scale, we can just click and drag to scale it up to fit the size of the window. And at this point, we can start transcribing the video. Now, instead of having to type out every single word and then line it up exactly where it needs to be in the video, let me show you how to automate it. Top right of the window, you should see this text tab. If we click on it and make sure that transcript is highlighted, then we can just hit transcribe sequence and hit transcribe again. Now the transcription is usually really good, but we'll want to read through it and just make sure everything's right. Okay, so I just went through and made sure that everything was correct. I had to make 2 modifications, but the rest of the transcripts looks perfect. Now, Mr. Beast already has some captions on here, so I'm going to blur out his original video so that we can add our own and you can really see what's happening. Now, I personally think that things like commas and periods completely throw off the vibe when you're trying to do these short captions, so let me show you how to quickly remove them. With our transcription right here, what we want to do is click in the search box and then just type out a comma. So just put 1 comma. You can see it'll highlight each comma that appears in the transcript. If we hit the replace button and we leave replace with completely blank and just hit replace all, you'll see it just removes all of the commas. We can do the same thing with a period. So there's a lot more periods. Just hit replace all and it'll delete all of the periods from our transcript. We're almost done with this step, but we've already literally saved a ton of time by just using this automatic feature. So now let's auto-generate some captions. So just come right here and click on this create captions button, and then we're gonna click the drop down for preferences. So for now, we're just gonna drag all of these sliders to the very left, and we're gonna select single under lines. Then we can just hit create captions. So now you can see that it's made super short captions tracks, and they're appearing right down here at the bottom of the video. What we want to do is click and select all of the captions, and then we need to come up here to the graphics and titles dropdown at the top of our screen and click upgrade caption to graphic. You should see them move down here onto the timeline. So now we've successfully made a full transcription of the video and then turned that transcription into usable captions. I'm going to show you how to stylize these captions with colors and fonts and add motion to them and then save everything as presets. There are 2 parts here, which is the stylization and the motion. But once this is done and you have the presets made, you can just reuse these as automated presets for every future job you get. This is what brings everything to life. Back in Premiere Pro, we want to take our playhead and move it to the very beginning of the first captions track. Make sure that it's selected and then come up to the Essential Graphics tab in the top right. Then we just want to click on the text of the caption. So let's see if we can't create a Mr. Beast style caption. After you've clicked on the text, you should see all of these options. And right here is where we can change the font. So let's just pick the closest font that we can. I think this one is pretty similar. Can scale it up a little bit, no shadow, and let's add a black stroke around it. A little bigger, there we go. And then we'll just center it in the box and we'll make sure that it's always set to all caps. Now this looks pretty good, but let's save it as a preset so we can apply it to all of the captions tracks. So to do that, we're just going to come to the styles section and click this drop down and then click create style. And we can name this whatever we want. So I'm just gonna call it Mr. Beast White and hit OK. And you should see it appear up here in the top left in your projects panel. Now, what I actually wanna do is create one more before I move on. So I'm gonna make one that inside it turns blue. Actually, let's do bright yellow. So we've created essentially another style that's very similar. It just has yellow fill instead of the white fill. We can add a new style and we'll just call this Mr. Beast Yellow. If we had to go through and edit each caption like this would take forever. You can save these presets and then reuse them on every single project that you get, depending on what style of video your customer is looking for. Now, if I zoom out and I select all of our captions, and then I click and drag Mr. Beast White onto all of them, you can see that every single caption that we've created has this style on it. And if there's ever a word that we wanted to highlight, like the word dangerous, we could add our Mr. Beast Yellow effect to kind of add a little more emphasis. And again, you can make as many presets as you want in as many different colors as you wanted. But while that looks great, let's try making a different style. So again, I move my playhead to the beginning of the captions track, and then I select the first caption. And here, let's try a different font. So I think we'll just do kind of a boring default font like this. This seems to be pretty popular. We'll make it a little bigger, add a little bit of a stroke to it. You could add a drop shadow as well, kind of like that. And that looks pretty good to me. So let's do this one and we'll call this one we'll call this the Alex Hormozi White. And then I know that he likes to use the green text as well. So maybe we'll make a green one and then we'll just create another style and we'll call this Alex Hormozi Green. There we go. And so we could select all of the captions again. And if we wanted to make them this style, we could just apply the style just like that. And then you can see every caption has the same styling. And then if we wanted to highlight specific words, again, we could just choose some of the captions tracks and we could apply the green preset. And now as we play through, every once in a while, we'll get a green caption. When you take that extra step and add the multi-layer captions, I think it adds a little bit more interest to the video. But now let's see if we can create this Isaiah photo style. So again, we're going to go back to the beginning of our captions. We'll select the caption and then we'll just choose a simple font. I think his are a little bit thinner, something like that. And I don't think they have that big of a stroke around them. So maybe something like that. Plain white. And so if we select all of our captions and we can just quickly apply this preset, you can see that we get a very simple style caption. Again, when you make good presets, you can just reuse them for each job that you get into the future. All of the biggest creators use like the same captions. So you might as well look at what they're doing really well and then implement that into the gig that you're selling. But now that the stylization is done, it's time to add some motion to the text and pin the text to the center of the screen or wherever you want it to appear. Doing this is going to help you hold even more attention, and it's just as important as the stylization. And just remember, we only have to make these presets once and then we can reuse them each time we get a gig. So back to the beginning of the first caption. We need to add an effect called transform. So on the top left, you should see an effects tab. If we click on it, and in the search box, just type transform. Under the video effects and distort button, you should see the transform effect. And we're just going to click and drag it right onto our captions track. Then in the top right, just click on the effects controls and we'll be able to edit the transform effect. This effect is going to handle all of the movement related to our captions. So first, to move the text around or center it on the screen, we'll want to move the anchor point. Now the second value relates to the height of it. So we're just going to drag it up until we reach the center of the screen, just like that. From here, if we want to make it look like it's popping onto the screen, what we can do is we can, under the scale section, just move it down slightly. So maybe we'll start it at like a 94%. We'll just click the stopwatch key and we'll move forward. We'll hit the forward key on our keyboard 3 times. So if we move 3 frames forward and then we just set it back to 100, now you can see that there's very slight motion to the caption itself. Obviously the background's moving a lot, but if you just notice, there's a slight pop in with the caption effect. I think Isaiah Photo uses this a lot. It just adds a little bit of motion. And again, create this preset once and you can reuse it as many times as you want. What we can do is we can just right click on the transform effect and we'll hit save preset. And this is really important. We'll want to scale to in point, and then we'll select the name and we'll want to name it something so that we'll know exactly what it is. Maybe we'll call it center text pop-up and hit OK. And now you can see that up in the top left, when we search for transform, in our own presets folder, you can see that center text pop-up is now a new preset. Now this is really important, otherwise it's going to cause you a bunch of problems. After you're done creating the first transform effect on this first caption, we need to come and delete it off of here. This is because when we re-add it to all of the captions at once, if we double apply it to a caption, it's going to mess everything up. So now we could zoom back out, select all of our captions, and just drag on the center text pop-up that we just created. And now all of our captions not only have the style, but it also has this great effect. There's also a lot more types of transform effects that we could apply to our text. Add this skew effect. You could have it start super small and then grow really big. You could have it move from the left onto the center of the screen, or you could even pin it to different locations across the screen. So if you wanted it to show up down here or over here, it really doesn't matter. There's endless creativity, and you'll just have to play around with these different parameters to figure out what really works for you and what your client wants. So now, hopefully you can see how you can create and save all these presets to save you a ton of work each time you get a gig. Everything's pretty much automated if you create good presets. And to drive this point home even more, I'm going to start a new video completely from scratch so you can see the entire process. Okay, so to start completely from scratch with our presets already saved, I'm going to create a new sequence right here, and we're just going to call it Alex video. Again, we want to make sure that our vertical video is created, and then I need to drag in my clip. So we're just going to drag it in, and up here in the text, we'll create a transcription, hit transcribe. I'm actually going to get a blur ready. So I'm going to blur out the video a little bit, just again, so we don't get confused. Scale it up, see if our transcription is ready. Okay, here we go. And again, I'm going to remove all of the commas and all of the periods. Place all.
A longer period of time before we are reinforced to.
Okay, and I don't know what's going on here. Let's see if that's actually an issue. So there we go. Now we have, it looks like it did it perfectly. So even though the transcript looked kind of weird, oh yeah, it was fine. So now we're gonna select all the captions and hit upgrade to graphics. And then right here, we can just apply, we can start applying our presets. So we'll do Alex Ramosi white. There we go. Nice, that's actually looks great. And then we will select them. We will add our transform effect. So in our presets bin, we can choose our center text pop in right here. Let me mute this. Cool. And so now I'm gonna go through and just add like specific words that I would want to pop out. So if I just choose every few captions, we can choose some important ones. Again, this just kind of helps build interest. I guess we should do it all the way through. And honestly, I read the transcript and this one looks almost perfect. So this takes the longest, but we're just going to pick some words just like that. And then we'll add Alex Ramosi green to make those kind of stand out. And they're a little bit bigger. And there you go. Okay, and if something is messed up like this, what we can do is just come to the essential graphics and just make it a little smaller so that it fits. There we go. I think the word, yep, relationships, it's just a little too long. So we'll have to make it smaller. There we go. I think this looks great. Like they're popping up exactly where you want to, right in the middle of the screen. So like if you wanted this to be green, you know, you can go through and edit it however you want. So like you want value to be green, you know, something like that. Like it took me less than 4 minutes with probably multiple errors that I made. So if you got faster at this, and like I had to edit some of the text. So that whole process to edit this brand new video after I already had the presets made only took me less than 4 minutes to edit that entire video. We could also add things like emojis and pop-up graphics and photos like some of the other creators use. That's super easy to add, and you can look that up in other tutorials. This one's just about the automated captions. Okay, but here is what you want to do if you want to maximize your profit and position yourself as a little bit different from the competition. I would offer multiple styles of captions with each order since they're so easy for you to generate. And this will probably help you get less revisions on your gigs because chances are one of the files the customer is going to like, or you could use this as an upsell to charge a little bit more for a premium package. You also want to provide your client with the entire transcript of the video, since a lot of the customers do like having that written word format. You could also offer something like a 1-day turnaround since you can churn these out super quickly. If you also learned how to do things like add emojis and sound design, you're probably going to get your gig ordered a little more often, or you can charge a little bit more for your service. Starting on Fiverr and creating one of these gigs could be your key to getting some social proof and getting your foot in the door to starting a content creation agency or something like an SMMA. Plus, Plus, since the only risk in doing this business is essentially your time that it takes to create the gig, you're basically just getting paid to learn how to use Premiere Pro, which is a professional tool. You can always monetize these types of skills. So even starting with a small gig on something like Fiverr, you can eventually scale out and start doing work on somewhere like Upwork or doing direct contact with specific influencers. Hopefully you found this video helpful. You could always save it and refer to it later if you want to. Hitting the like button and subscribing always helps me out in the YouTube algorithm. And as always, I'll see you soon.